and welcome back to the Dreamcast. I am your host, Denise Walsh. I combine science, scripture, and stories that will inspire you to dive deep, break through your own personal glass ceiling, and design a life of your dreams. Are you overworked, overstressed, and overwhelmed? You want life to be different, but you don't even know how to get there. Man, oh man, I lived there myself. And in my experience with working with thousands of people from all walks of life, there is one simple thing that holds so many of us back: a lack of time management. We may know what we want, but we often don't know how to get there and don't feel like we can add one more thing into our already busy day. And that's exactly why I created the Dream Life Action Planner. It's a 90-day inspired game plan that will give you total clarity on your greatest priorities and skyrocket your productivity on the tasks that matter most. And now, for a limited time, you can get your own copy for free. And when you go to denisewalsh.com/action. Denise Walsh, Denisewalsh.com/action, ACTION. Put your information in and we will send this action planner directly to your inbox so you can set your goals, reprioritize your calendar, and design your dream life today. Big welcome back to the Dreamcast. In today's interview, I'm interviewing somebody who is a hypnotist. Yes, a hypnotist. And this is not your all-night party back in high school where the hypnotist asked everybody to quack like a duck. No. Our next guest is passionate about helping his clients live a life full of joy, love, and fulfillment by connecting to themselves and flipping their own mind. He is caring, compassionate, and when you hear his voice, you'll know exactly what I mean. I feel like he needs to be doing this work, and he helps clients to reach beyond their self-imposed limits and access the only true effective place to create lasting change, which is inside themselves. He is an author, a sought-after speaker, and has over 50 audio and video programs as he's been a hypnotist for now a decade. So big Dreamcast welcome to Rick Paddock.
Thanks, Denise. I'm so looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. You are an expert in something that I don't know a ton about, and I am so interested and intrigued with. So you are a certified hypnotherapist, and you have been for a decade. Yeah. But prior to that, you had your own rock bottom. So we're going to get into hypnosis. We're going to get into what you're doing now, but I want to know how you got here. So can you tell us a little bit about the rock bottom and the pivot that led you in this direction?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I've always had kind of an entrepreneurial mindset. I've had a few businesses. This is my third business. I had a direct mail business, and the business that came in between the direct mail business and my hypnosis business, where I help clients one-on-one. I train other hypnotists, certify them, and put on classes, was a house flipping business. I was an investor. I was a real estate investor. So I bought, rehab, flipped to wholesalers, retailed, rented. I had 30-some tenants. And back in around here, it was 2007, the market turned as it did throughout the country. And I was a single dad, and my income was up in the air. What was I going to do? So most real estate investors have private money lenders. So we call them hard money lenders, and not the traditional banks. So if we're going to do a quick flip where we're going to do a rehab and turn it around, we'll borrow from individual investors at a higher rate because they can get us the money quickly and we can turn it around quickly. So I had what I ended up calling, becoming friends with people that loaned me money. And now I didn't know if I was going to be able to pay them back. So I refinanced my house, knowing that if I couldn't sell these houses, I was going to lose my house. And that's exactly what happened. So I went from feeling pretty good. My kids were teenagers, and I thought their college was paid for. I knew we were going. I wasn't living high on the hog. I was living, I was just reinvesting everything. And now really pretty quickly, all of that was up in the air. And so I had to figure out what I was going to do. And in that uncertainty of what do I do? Single dad. Where am I going to live? Because I knew eventually I was going to have to move. I got anxious and I got depressed. I felt those unwanted feelings that we all feel at some times. And I didn't like where I was going. And so, a long story short, I had always been a student of the mind, I like to say. In fact, going back a little bit further, back when I was in sixth grade, I had a classmate whose dad unfortunately committed suicide. And as a sixth grader, I heard about it and I thought to myself, and in hindsight, it's interesting that as a probably 11-year-old or so, 10 or 11-year-old, I thought to myself, how would I handle that? And just that question shows that I had the awareness that you have a choice. 2 years later, prior to a week before my eighth grade school year started, my dad passed. He got cancer and passed. So now I had the opportunity to make the choice, to not let the outside world affect my inside world. Mm-hmm. And I'd done a pretty good job throughout my life until my real estate business collapsed.
Well, it is interesting when you're headed in a direction and you're excited about it, you're seeing results, like this is what you want, and then it's pivoted for you. It's like one thing to feel restless and make a change yourself. It's another thing when you feel like it's forced upon you and it's unsudden, it's like a surprise, and you're filled with all of this uncertainty and doubt and what ifs and all of those questions. So how did you deal with that?
Yeah, and I love how you said that, as you described that, it's like we get so focused, we're kind of in the tunnel in our business, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere comes this, blind side. So what I did is, as fate would have it, as God would have it, a friend of mine, he was a pastor at the church that I went to, asked me to come in. He said, "Hey, I'm putting together a workshop about some new skills that I learned, and I want to get your feedback." And so basically he had become a coach, and he had been applying coaching skills with the people that would come to him for help. And he was telling me how for years, he kind of did the traditional pastoral counseling model where, tell me about your upbringing, what brought you to here. And whereas coaching was more about a little bit what's happening now, but more where do you want to go? Uh-huh. And so more future focused. And interestingly enough, in our first meeting, he took me through a visualization that was really hypnosis. And it was a process that was the beginning of the process of getting me out of my funk and reminding me of the power of our mind. So yeah, it was just that chance meeting that led me to hypnosis and coaching.
Okay. So I think that's really important. Being stuck is part of life, having funks, having those ups and downs. And then the question is what do you do with them? And you can deal with it yourself, or you can ask for help. And for you, the help asked you if they could help you, which was really helpful.
Yeah, it was perfect timing. But But to your point, beyond that, I could have stayed in the stump, what'd you say, the funk. But it really comes down to making the decision. And I recognize as hard as it was, as anxious as I got, and I'd say I was depressed, I had an underlying awareness that this isn't me. This isn't going to define me. Always being an entrepreneur, you read stories about most successful entrepreneurs have some setbacks. And so I had the awareness, all right, this is a big setback, but it's only a setback. It's not me. It's not who I am. It's just something outside of me. And so I made the decision to move forward.
Yeah. And not only did you say yes to coaching, you said yes to implementing what he was teaching you. You said yes to opening yourself up to his visualization and really allowing it to change you from the inside out. Do you mind sharing what that first one was for you?
What, the visualization?
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah. So really it's what I call, and I use it a lot with my clients now, and I use it in self-hypnosis for myself, a future self-visualization. In general, your listeners can just imagine that they're in the most peaceful, relaxing place they can imagine, somewhere outdoors, a beautiful day, and just give themselves a minute or two to do a simple relaxation. And then imagine that a cloud comes and lifts them up into the sky. And as they're lifted into the sky, the earth below them spins quickly, and then slower and slower. And as the cloud brings them back down, they're now 20 years in the future, and they're going to go visit their future self's home. And so I saw my future self's home. I knocked on the door. I saw me in 20 years. And there's an opportunity for a dialogue with your future self. And, the truth is we all grow and learn, and we know more than we used to. And at times we'll say to ourselves, gosh, if I only had known then what I know now. Well, we can tap into that future wisdom.
Interesting. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
I love creating space for that, because I think so often we're so busy and we don't often listen to ourselves. And I'm totally going to try that myself. But so you did this, you went through the coaching, you experienced some of these things, you started learning and growing in this new direction. What happened next?
I first got certified as a coach and did some coaching, and then recognized that those visualizations I was taking my clients through was really hypnosis. And that was really stepping out of my comfort zone too. I decided to get trained and certified as a hypnotist, and that's a field, a label that has a lot of baggage attached to it. And once I understood what it really was, which is just more simply another way to tap into the power of our own mind, I reached out that way. And so the next step was just bit by bit growing that business. And I consider them one, coaching and hypnosis, and putting the shingle out. And the cool thing about hypnosis, while there are a lot of myths and misconceptions attached to it, people have the awareness that maybe this can help me. I know it helped my uncle quit smoking, or help my sister lose weight, or it helps, the woman I work with get over anxiety. So while there's our myths and misconceptions, in general, people understand that our mind is pretty powerful. And if I can get a little assistance in there, maybe it'll help. So
cool.
Yeah.
Now the coaching was more life coaching experiences?
Yeah.
Okay. And so the coaching then led to being certified in hypnosis. So for somebody that is like totally clueless, how would you describe hypnosis and how is it helpful?
What's interesting is I'm in the upcoming year, I'm presenting at 3 or 4 different hypnosis conventions with the biggest ones in Vegas. There's probably going to be 12 or 1,300 people there. A lot of them are hypnotists, other people are interested. And if you ask them all, you get a few hundred different definitions of hypnosis, which is pretty interesting. But I define it as, first of all, it's a natural state of mind. There's kind of actually like 3 S's that help me remember. The first S is it's a natural state of mind. So very similar to the state of mind that we get in when we are reading a book, when we're very focused, when we're so into that book that we feel like we're there, to the exclusion of the world around us. Or when we're watching.
Like when my kids are watching TV and I'm like, Earth to Owen. Yes.
Right. Knock, knock. Yeah. Or when dads and husbands are watching a sporting activity. Yep. So that's a narrowing of your focus of attention to the exclusion of your outside world, where you allow yourself to really get in the moment. Or if you're a woodworker, if you're a knitter or gardener, where you're really into it, or even getting lost in Google land, or something, that's the natural state of mind that we all get to, often accidentally. With a hypnotist or through self-hypnosis, it's a matter of doing it intentionally. And so that's the first S. The second S is it's a scientifically measurable state of mind. And so it's typically, there's about 4 different brainwave states. There's beta at the top, which is kind of where we're at. Our brainwaves are active. There's alpha below that, theta, and then deltas at the bottom. So in those middle 2, that alpha to theta brain level state, that's where we get when we're in those focused states. Accidentally, we can get there intentionally. So it's just a normal, natural state. It's funny. A lot of people, I think it was the movie Office Space. Do you remember it, Denise? Yeah, it's pretty funny. And a guy goes to a hypnotist. His girlfriend recommends he goes, and the hypnotist dies in the session. And this is not real, but he stays, quote unquote, in hypnosis throughout the movie. And people have, can I get stuck in this state? And it's like, no, you'll move from theta to alpha to beta. So it's just a natural state of mind, scientifically measurable state of mind. And the last S is it's a skill. It's something that we can practice and get better at.
And for those who have the experience of being in between alpha and theta through hypnosis, does that impact times when they're in beta? You know what I mean? Like when they go back to normal, do they feel different because of their experience in these lower waves?
So I think I know what you mean, but tell me again. Tell me
Okay.
a little bit more what you're
Well, I
asking.
guess my question, there's two questions. Who would be a good candidate for this? And then how would it impact normal everyday life once you get good at this skill?
Excellent. Okay. So it does impact that beta state, the everyday state, if you want it to. So if you're going to that hypnotic state of mind, whether you're guided by a hypnotist or whether you're doing it through self hypnosis and getting to that alpha theta level, giving yourself the suggestions or having heard the suggestions that you want to hear around the goal or change that you want to make, it is going to impact your everyday life, including and especially if you practice. So I like to say that in many ways, hypnosis is about subconscious learning or subconscious relearning. So our subconscious, which is what controls our life, the majority of our day, all these things we do automatically, all these thoughts and feelings that come up automatically are just learned behaviors, learned thoughts and feelings, and we can learn new ones. But learning is often about repetition. And so the more we do it, the more it's going to affect our everyday life. And so to answer the other part of your question, who can do this, who should do it, really anybody that has the ability to imagine and focus, which is, again, not everybody. There are some people who may be, mentally challenged, but just about anybody. If you have the ability to imagine and to focus internally, and you have the desire and commitment to follow through on it, it works wonderfully for everybody.
Can
Yeah.
you tell me about a client or testimony that has seen a positive change that has been cool for you?
Sure. Yeah, there's so many cool ones. And when I meet with clients, I like to share them because it gives hope, because a lot of times we'll think, how can I do this? I've had this stuck feeling for so long, or I've been stuck in this state. Can just listening to somebody make the change? And boy, I think a recent one is I had somebody, any new clients, I'll ask them, so how'd you hear about me? How'd you find me? And he said, well, my wife gave me your name because she works with somebody who had seen you. And this is my favorite kind of referral, because that past client wasn't, saying, hey, you got to go see Rick. Her life had changed so much that this coworker, and it was more about how she carried herself. She originally came to me, I think, for weight loss or weight management. And it wasn't enough that I think her coworker noticed. She only needed to lose maybe 10 or 15 pounds. But her coworker said, all right, I got to ask you, what's going on? Something is different about you. And so she told her about the work that we did together, and her mindset and how she felt about herself, self-love and self-care had changed so much. And the woman who had asked about it was so blown away. She told her husband about some things that he had been struggling with.
Okay.
Does kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the original complaint was weight loss.
Yeah.
And that I'm sure happened, but it also was much deeper than that. And I think at the end of the day, right, we become who we believe we are. And so when you can shift or alter or impact at the core, then that really does change everything.
Yeah, for so many clients that come to me for weight management or weight loss, there's a phrase that I'll use often, and it's that when you just feel good for no particular reason, when you feel happy, at peace, the weight automatically falls off. And in this client that we're talking about, she recognized that her, I guess maybe obsession about what to eat and how much to eat and how much not to eat just kind of faded away. It just didn't matter as much. She just felt so good to be herself that her self-care just fell in line easily and naturally.
Cool. How often do people come see you? Is it like a one-time thing, three-time thing, 6 months thing?
Yeah, in general, it's probably between 3, depending on the issue. And everybody's a little bit different. Our past is different, our current environment. But yeah, the cool thing about the work I do with clients, admittedly, it's not the best business model because I don't see them a whole lot. We get things cleared up and they're off and running.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Tell me a little bit about building a business in this type of field that is a bit misunderstood. Well, how did you get started and then start really building and scaling?
Most of my clients now come from probably one of 3 ways. Referral from a past client, some online marketing, through Facebook and Google AdWords, and then the speaking that I do. The speaking is probably the best way to break down those myths when they can see that I'm just a normal person. I'm not some weirdo, somebody strange. And when they understand kind of the science behind it, that more and more neuroscience is explaining why hypnosis and the process is similar to hypnosis have worked for years, that helps break down some of the barriers and some of the myths. But ultimately, it's, it really just comes down to work and commitment, making sure that my online stuff is current, is fresh, is new, and that I'm out speaking, locally or throughout the states.
Okay. So sometimes it's just consumer education, letting people know what hypnosis is and how it will benefit them. And then once they see a benefit, it starts to kind of grow naturally through referrals.
Yeah. The advantage and the cool thing about hypnosis is there is an interest in it. Most people, have a little bit of curiosity about it. So if I'm out, for dinner or at a networking group or anywhere, and the whole, what do you do comes up, there's often a fascination.
Wait a minute. Let's talk about that the rest of the dinner.
Right. Yeah. And occasionally the flip side is, oh, don't look me in the eye, and you're not going to make me, bark like a dog. And I'll tell them, only if you pay me extra.
So if you think back to your real estate self, grinding in real estate, flipping houses, would you ever have imagined yourself doing what you do now?
Great question, Denise. In some ways, no. In other ways, yes. As I mentioned, I've always been a student of the mind. I've always been an encourager, a cheerleader, a supporter. And in many ways, I consider what I do now with my clients individually and in groups, all of those. I'm more than a hypnotist. I like to call myself kind of a mind coach, helping my clients get the greatest from the potential of their mind. Or even more simply, kind of a tour guide, where I'm guiding them to where they want to get. And I think I've always done that to some degree. But the no part would be, I don't know that I would have thought I would have been a hypnotist. I guess I thought, probably like a lot of people, that only some people can do it. It's kind of like an extra gift you're born with. And then the more I thought about it, it's like, we're just using words, guiding clients through the power of words. And we know how words impact our minds. So it's just an education process that anybody can learn and do.
Yeah, super cool. Well, I can tell you your voice is like so soothing. I can't imagine you doing anything else.
I have heard that.
Right up your alley. And you have a podcast as well, called the Mind Flipping Podcast, as another way to kind of reach out and educate people on this. Can you tell me where that was born from?
Really where it was born from. In fact, I just had episode 50 and I talked a little bit about why and how it started. The title is kind of a play on my house flipping background and what led me to it. But really, first of all, the title, kind of is in congruence with how, we always have the ability to renovate, update our mind and our lives. And often, just like in a home where we recognize there's a spot on the wall that indicates the roof is leaking, or we've got water in the basement, there's a foundation problem, we often recognize there are things in our life, there are little signs. Well, my pants are a little tighter than they used to be, or my muscles in my neck and shoulders are just super sore. I must be carrying an extra stress. So there are signs that we recognize we need to renovate and update our thoughts, our mind. I love what I do, and I thought a podcast was a way to get the word out on a bigger scale rather than just locally. So I interview other experts in mind growth, I guess, hypnotists, coaches like yourself, experts in meditation, neuroscience, neurolinguistic programming, to share their stories, their strategies about flipping minds and flipping lives.
Ooh, I love it.
Yep. And I can't wait to have you on. It's scheduled and we're going to rock it.
Yes. Don't worry, guys. I will definitely make sure you all know when I'm on his podcast too, because this is so up my alley. Coming from a psychology world and learning more about the quantum physics and neuroscience, it's not just a nice thing to do. It's like thinking positive isn't just like a quote. It really does change us from the inside out. And we know if we want our outside to change, our inside needs to change first. So you talked a bit about self-hypnosis, and this is really interesting to me because I think, like you mentioned, it's a skill that we can learn, but we have to learn it first before we can practice it. So how would we practice or learn this self-hypnosis idea to do on our own?
I've gotten, I know we didn't really talk about this before you clicked record, but I've got some resources that I'm, happy to share. I've got a little video, a little audio, and a little PDF. I call it Simple Self-Hypnosis, and it doesn't have to be complicated. It's something that you can do really in a matter of seconds. It doesn't have to be dedicating 15 or 30 minutes. Really, a couple minutes is good, but ultimately it's a process that anybody can do where we tap into what a lot of us call the deeper part of our mind, our subconscious, and we communicate with it through self-hypnosis in the way that it needs to be, and that's through our imagination. That's how it understands. That's its language. And so, I'm happy to share those resources, and that'll be just a simple way for your listeners to play and practice.
Yeah, awesome. How would we go ahead and get that?
So you could have your listeners just email rick@rickpaddock.com. What do you want in the subject line? Dreamcast? Denise's Dreamcast?
Perfect. Put Dreamcast in the subject line and Rick will know. And I'll put all the details in the show notes so you guys can check it out. And the simple self-hypnosis. And because it is a skill that can be learned, it's helpful to have somebody, like we mentioned, when you need help, ask somebody who knows what they're doing and ask them for help. So Rick, we really so appreciate you taking the time to get us that information, because I think that's just a great step in the right direction.
I agree. It's so valuable, and it doesn't take that much time, but there is a benefit to practice.
Yeah. Consistency is key with anything. So is there anybody who would not benefit from hypnosis?
Yeah, I guess somebody who didn't have an interest. I'll have people call me for their husband, for their wife, for their kids. They've got to want it. So the only people that wouldn't benefit are those that don't want to benefit, that don't have an interest, that are doing it for somebody else. Right.
Because they're doing it kind of like, I imagine them like rolling their eyes while they're doing it, and you have somebody who isn't quite in it, it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, and I've had clients that, they feel like they're in it or think they're in it. I'm thinking of a recent, I don't know, within the last couple of years, a mother and daughter. And I talked to each of them. They both seemed on board. But as we got working together, you could tell it was really mom's idea. Mom was seeing success and the daughter wasn't. And it came down to they both weren't as committed as they should have been. Only one of them was.
Right. Very cool. So one question I have in terms of business building is, has there been maybe a setback or a mistake or just something where you had a discouragement throughout the last 10 years as you were growing your practice?
Yeah, I guess thinking about it, Denise, not one big thing, but a common challenge are just kind of the lulls, the valleys, where the phone isn't ringing, the appointments aren't coming through, just the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur. One of the recent guests on my podcast, Dr. Paul Ralston, shared that challenge for him as well. He's got a very thriving, successful practice, but there are those valleys. And if we're not careful, we can forget that they're only valleys and another hill is coming. And so I think probably in the last 10 years, those have been the biggest challenge, just those, little blips on the radar where you think, oh no, where did everybody go? What's going to happen? I'm doing what I've always done, but I'm not getting the results. And then my self-talk is keep doing what you're doing. People need this, and eventually it rebounds.
Yeah. Then you use your own skills.
Yep. Right.
You retrain your brain, you get back on the right path. Yep.
Call a friend, reach out to other people, find my, coaches and hypnotists to help me.
Yep. Do this in community. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, as a business owner and as somebody who is consistently developing personally and building your mind, growing, I like to say, breaking through your own glass ceiling, continuing to take steps forward. What is one thing that you do every day that you can't live without?
Ooh, great question. Oh boy. Every day. I don't know if this is the right answer, but I give thanks morning and night and throughout the day. I live a pretty grateful life, and it just feels good to be there. Even when my back is given out, I'm in pain. I try to be grateful for every day because I do have a good life, and it's not because I've live in the best place in the world. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It gets pretty cold here, and it's not because I have the biggest house or any of those things. It's just because I choose to be grateful.
Yeah, I think that is such, again, a skill, and it's something that when you're intentionally brewing yourself to stay in that space, life outside of you can be happening. It doesn't mean life's easy, but yet you're peaceful in the process, and that makes it easier.
Yeah. And enjoyable, and all that good stuff follows.
So what do your kids think about this big change or transition for you?
Into this role?
From real estate guru to hypnosis counselor.
It's interesting. So my wife and I have 3 kids. I have 2 from previous marriage and a stepdaughter. My oldest daughter, very similar to me, she thinks it's cool. She's a big supporter, shares my posts and all of that. My son, I think he still like scratches his head. I remember 10 years ago when I said I was doing this, he told me, it's not real, Dad. I said, all right, Ryan. And he lives with his mom. And so I've never really, tried to convince him.
Practiced with him.
Yeah, I've never practiced with him. And not only my son, but as long as I bring that up, I don't like to be in the business of trying to convince people. I don't think any of us need to be. People that are open to it, I'm happy to share with them the power of it. And then our youngest, my stepdaughter, actually I probably worked with her more than either of the other ones. And she's a great supporter as well. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Well, I know when you're in a growth mindset and you really go outside your comfort zone, I mean, it ripple effects and it impacts everybody around you. And so I know your kids, even if, Ryan is still like, wait, what? They've noticed. They noticed you're not in your funk. They've noticed that you are peaceful and that you are in that grateful state, and that ripple effects. And that's the cool thing about this is it really can, when you learn these skills, it can change the legacy of your family, because instead of being wound up and anxious and not sleeping and depressed and frustrated and all of the things that some people can live in, you made the change to learn, grow, flip your own mind, which then gives them the space and ability to flip theirs too.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks for saying that. Just last night, my daughter asked if she could stop over. My oldest, Taylor, works at a retirement community, and she works in the memory unit and gets in and out of the memory unit. And one of her residents, one of her favorites that she's told me about, she's in her 90s and she just went canoeing on her birthday. She's super active. She had a stroke. And so my daughter came over and she needed a hug, and she was, tearing up a little bit about, this resident that she loves that was like, of all people, how her, she was so active and she's still alive, but in the hospital. And then she, despite the tears and the sadness, she was able to express the gratitude that she's been a part of her life, and that is just life. And it hurts to hear that this resident has gone through this, but it beats not having that relationship at all. So it was cool to see her perspective.
Yeah, you can see her shift and use the skills. And I think at the same time, when you don't have to be convincing people or being like, you should think about it in this way, when you're just being and doing and growing yourself, it does ripple effect. And then they learn it on their own, just even through kind of osmosis.
Absolutely.
They hear you kind of work through some things and they absorb it at some level.
Yeah. And I can tell the little bit we chatted, by the way you carry yourself, that you're a great example for your teams at home and at work.
Thank you. Yeah. I feel like it's my job to keep growing, because if I don't, then I'll cap them too. So
that's a great perspective. Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun. Well, you guys definitely check out midamericahypnosis.com and then the Mind Flipping podcast for more information on how you can flip your own mind by learning these skills. Email Rick at rickpaddock.com. All these links will be in the show notes below, but take advantage of the simple self-hypnosis tool. I've learned that when somebody has a skill that I want, or somebody's successful, or they're offering a path for me to follow, take it. Not everybody does, but that's what we do, is we take it and we learn and we grow and we absorb, and we're just really excited to keep learning about this. So thank you, Rick, for your wisdom and experience today. And I'm excited to chat with you again in a few weeks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Denise. Thanks for having me a guest, and I look forward to chatting again.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. I want to hear your aha moment from today's amazing episode. If you could leave a review at whatever podcast player you choose to listen from, Apple Podcast, Castbox, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're listening from, leave a review and share with us your favorite part of today's episode. Thanks for hanging out, and remember to dream big.